We're here today at St Thomas's Church, Pendleton, Pengy Church as it's known to generations of Salfordians. And I'm pleased to say I'm here today with Barry Empton and Teresa.
Hello.
Both friends of
St Thomas.
Thomas's.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say before we start filming, I was born about 300 yards away there in Hankey Park. This was not my church, but I used to love wandering around it when I was a kid. But the main thing is today we're unearthing Pendleton's past.
Correct.
Could you tell us what it's all about?
Absolutely, yeah. So we had a notion about 6 months ago about unearthing some of the gravestones which have been lost to the most of the modern generation for about 50 years when this site was turfed over. Right. So what we're revealing really is bringing back to life how the place used to look in the 1970s.
Right. So this was grassed over in about 1973?
1973, yeah.
And do we know how many interments bodies there are here?
Yes, over
to you. Oh, you know the answer.
9,652 is what I'm working to. Very precise.
How many actual headstones would there be then?
Good question. So when you look at the memorial inscription plan that was done in the 1970s, you're into the 1,000 and odds. But that is quite loose. So it's not like they started at number one in the corner and worked around. It's quite difficult to ascertain. But you're probably talking round about 1,000, something like that.
And how long will it be before you finish the task of unearthing all the headstones?
So we've got 3 weeks to uncover stones in 2 plots, and then the research begins.
I assume that before you started the dig, you had a record of the grave. You're not just digging haphazardly, are you?
No.
You must have known where they were.
No.
Yeah.
So when this exercise started in the 1970s, the first thing they had to do was go around and make a note of all these inscriptions, do a little bit of a plan where everything was for future generations, because the original grave plan was lost to time. Right. So we know a grave number and we know the inscription, but having said that, we know nothing about the families themselves. So we've chosen a plot with graves that's a little bit older than, for example, in that corner there, where they're a bit more recent.
Right.
So, and to do that makes sense because what we're trying to do is think about working class lives of people that lived during the Industrial Revolution. So this site here captures that perfectly.
I think it's fascinating what you're doing. You know, I've got a love of history and Salford, and this ticks all my boxes. Is there any communal graves here?
Yes. In fact, there's one just behind us.
That's convenient.
Which has got no inscription on.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether that's a communal grave that's got a stone on top as a marker.
Yeah.
Or whether it is a family grave that was never inscribed. But certainly there were a lot of communal burials.
So when don't call it the task, when it's completed, will these be left open?
Yeah.
So the general public can just wander around.
Correct.
Well, have a look round.
Correct.
And learn.
Correct. Yeah. So the idea is that we have interpretation boards. They'll be placed on the railings. They'll tell a little bit about the people that are buried here, where they lived, and how Pendleton grew as a town, and also about occupations. What were the prevalent working lives like in those days? You know, in the 19th century.
Would the occupants of the grave, should we say, would they have been well off then, wouldn't it, to afford a headstone?
Yes, some are. It's a mixture. It's very much a mixture. I think if you could afford it, you had your own family plot. Obviously not everybody was in that position, but we have a mixture here of people that sort of have made their notoriety in history. So we have John Hankinson of Hankey Park fame, but maybe next to John Hankinson is somebody who worked in his flower shop or whatever it might have been. So, a whole mix of those entrepreneurs and those that have helped them to become and create that position in life. Yeah.
Have you come across any unusual graves, any inscriptions, anything, or is it too early?
Well, it's too early to talk about what we're going to uncover, but there's a gentleman just over there, who we've already researched because his grave is visible, Benjamin Boothman, who worked in the cotton mills. Yeah. And one night he was drinking at the Church Inn, which is
sadly demolished. Yeah.
And there was a well-known, we'll call him an alcoholic,
He liked to drink.
He was after free beer.
Yeah.
And Benjamin
No
said
relation.
To him, Benjamin said to him, "Oh, drink some of that, it'll do you good." And he did, and it was caustic soda. So Benjamin Boothman appeared in court, but was found not guilty of murder.
Oh, that's a wonderful story.
Yeah.
I love that.
Charged with manslaughter. So so there's a few stories.
Who is funding this?
Good question. So that is Historic England. It was earlier this year. They released grant funding specifically aimed at working class histories, untold stories of working class people. So we fell perfectly into that.
Honestly, it's amazing. Do you still need volunteers, or have you ready?
We're always welcome to anybody who's interested in getting involved. We're not going to say no to anybody.
Do they have to bring their own shovel?
No, not at all. We've got plenty of equipment. So all you need to do is turn up, basically.
And if you're not into digging but you're interested,
helping out,
come and have a sit down and a drink and a biscuit.
So that's an open invitation. If you live local, if you're interested in Salford, its history, and you want to be part of it, unearthing Pendleton's past, come down to Pendleton Church, meet Teresa and Barry, and they'll give you the shovel and you do the rest.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for a couple of minutes, it's a real joy to welcome you all to St Thomas's Church for the formal launch of this project, Unearthing Pendleton's Past. This is one of the most recognisable buildings not only in Salford, I think, but in Greater Manchester. Literally thousands of people go past this church every day. Its early history, of course, mirrors the development of the Industrial Revolution and the growth of Salford as an industrial city. Not everybody is aware that not only is this a graveyard, but it's actually the final resting place of about 10,000 people. 10,000 people whose story is the story of the development of this city. And through the involvement of Friends of St Thomas's, our wonderful Friends organisation that was formally launched last week, they came up with this scheme to unearth Pendleton's past, to take the graveyard back to how it was in the 1970s, when at that stage it was covered with about 6 inches of topsoil and the turf. And of course, people who walk and drive past this graveyard every day have no idea that this history is hidden underneath here. So that's what the project is all about. And we're absolutely thrilled that our City Mayor Paul Dennett has come to formally launch it and to dig a piece of turf for himself. So please could we welcome our City Mayor Paul Dennett, please.
So, good afternoon everyone. Absolutely delighted to be here today, and also delighted that the Friends Group were successful in their bid for funding to Historic England. And thanks to Historic England, we have £10,000 to be able to work with partners in the city of Salford to deliver this project. Now, I don't need to tell all of you how important the history, the heritage and the social history of the city of Salford is to the people of this great city. And I think unearthing Pendleton's past speaks to that importance, because behind every one of these gravestones, including the ones without names on them, there are stories to be told. And those stories have relevance and resonance today in the middle of what is a cost of living and economic crisis. I think the city of Salford and the struggles we've had over the years during the Industrial Revolution into the 21st century today are very relevant for trying to inform where we go as a country in the future. For me, what this is also about is engagement with communities, and it's great to see St Thomas's, the Friends Group, working with schools and young children, working with the University of Salford and our advisory archaeological service at the university, which provide great services here in the city of Salford, but also across Greater Manchester. This project speaks to the partnership and the collaboration that this city has had around archaeology, social history over many, many years. So I just want to say today, thank you so much to the Friends Group for what you've done in landing the investment to deliver this project. thank you for St Thomas's and Daniel and all the work that goes into collaborating and partnering in this space. And you know, I'm really looking forward to hearing about those stories, to hearing about the history of our great city, and using that learning to inform what we do today. Because I often say, in many respects, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And I think learning from our past to inform our future is really, really important. So thank you so much to everyone for being here today. I'm really looking forward to what this project unearths, delivers, and how we learn from that moving forward in what is a very challenging context and environment. So thank you very much.
Go on, Paul, do you like you mean it?
There we are.
There we go.
Paul, we're here today at Pendleton Church, unearthing Pendleton's past. What do you think of it?
I think it's fantastic, and you know, I knew when the Friends group were making their submission to Historic England for the funding, I was really excited and supportive of it. I even submitted a letter of support to support this project. So it's great to be here today celebrating their success with Historic England, and also seeing the work starting to happen to unearth these gravestones and learn about the social histories that sit behind all of these people.
I was born, say, 300 yards away in Hankey Park, and this, I'm different religion, but I was fascinated by this church and history. So it ticks all the boxes. But walking around, looking at the headstones that have been unearthed, it gives a great insight, doesn't it, into how people lived, etc., work, death, even.
Absolutely, and telling those stories and learning from their experiences in the city of Salford, I think is really important to inform what we do today and how we do what we do today. But what's interesting is a lot of the gravestones are actually under the turf here. I think it was turfed over in the 1970s. So yeah, so we're actually exposing those gravestones and learning about the people who are buried here, but also the social history that sits behind all of that.
I am pleased to hear that the graves will be left exposed, if that be the correct word, for future generations to look at. But school children will be able to learn from their history, their heritage, by school trips here.
Absolutely.
It's a fabulous, and thank you for coming down. And,
Oh no problem at all, and you're absolutely right. Engaging our young people and our schools in this project, it's what it's all about. We often talk about intergenerational approaches to decisions we make or things we do in the city, and you know, unearthing Pendleton's past is a great example of that intergenerational approach to learning from our really proud and progressive social history and allowing that to inform how we see the world today, ultimately.
I was going to say that, but you just said it for me. Cheers
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good man.